What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Today I want to talk to you about Season 2 of The Dragon Prince, which is an animated Netflix series. I talked about Season 1 last year, and Season 2 is already out. I was really surprised to see it come out this early, because animation is very hard work. I've never worked in animation, but I know that there's a lot of work that goes into it, and I figured it would take at least a year for Season 2 to come out, but it came out much sooner than I thought it would. And one of my complaints about Season 1 was that the animation quality was not quite as good as I wanted it to be. There are a few people who worked on this series who also worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, and comparing any season of that show that came out over 10 years ago with Season 1 of The Dragon Prince, and you can tell that there is a dip in quality. And Season 2 actually takes away that dip. This is much smoother, much nicer, crisper animation than Season 1. And Season 1 was not horribly animated, but I apparently was not the only person who thought that the animation was not what it could have been. And Season 2, also, I'm not the only person who thinks that it is an improvement over Season 1. I was thinking that, and I was thinking, well, maybe it's all in my head, but then I read up on it, and apparently many people thought that Season 1 could have been better, and then many people thought that Season 2 was better. So I was really happy to see that. Also, I feel like the pacing here is a little slow for like the first two-thirds of this season, but towards the end of this season, things really pick up, and I think it's definitely worth the wait. I have heard some people complain about the Netflix original series model and how 15, 20 years ago you would have an arc-driven show like Buffy the Vampire Slayer that would be 20 to 22 episodes long, and really you would have like 5 to 8 episodes that were really heavy on the arc, and then you would have a whole lot of fluff. And then you get to Daredevil Season 1, which is only 13 episodes long, and it really feels much tighter, much more neatly plotted, like they knew what they were doing going into it. And then you get a little further into some of the other Marvel shows, to use an example of something I'm much more familiar with, where even with 13 episodes, it still feels a little padded, and it feels like they could have condensed it down even further, but they had to have a 13-episode season because that was what they did. Looking at this, for the first two-thirds of the season, I was really thinking, instead of doing 9, 22, 23-minute episodes, they could have just done a 2-hour movie instead of a 9-episode season. And I was really thinking, like, there's just a lot of not anything going on. Our big bad guy of this series, Viren, he spends like 3 episodes sitting in front of a mirror talking to this dark elf guy, and not a whole lot happens. And then he spends 2 episodes trying to convince these other monarchs from the other human kingdoms to join forces with him against the elves. And it just feels like he doesn't do a whole lot in this season. And really, he doesn't. He is probably the most inactive character in this entire season. And then you've got some other characters who, for entire episodes, they don't appear at all, which is fine when you're focusing on some of the other characters. But then, like, you have Colum, who spends like 2 episodes deciding, or he spends 1 episode deciding if he should read a letter from his dad, and then another episode reading the letter. It feels like the pacing is very slow until you get to the last few episodes of the season, and things really pick up. And I do feel like it's worth the wait, but I also think this maybe could have been 8 episodes long instead of 9, and that might not feel like much of a difference, but when you're watching these episodes all back to back, as I mostly was, I didn't watch it all in one day, but I watched 5 episodes yesterday, and then I watched the rest of the episodes today. Watching them in such a quick, rapid pace like that, I was really thinking, man, there's just not a lot going on with this character, or there's not a lot going on with the plot here. The place that they were at the end of Season 1, the geographical place they were at, where, spoilers, where the dragon hatched at the end of Season 1, they stayed there for like 3 episodes in this season, and by the time they were finally leaving that place, I was thinking, good, they're actually going to do something in this season. I was afraid that they were going to stay in that place for the entire season, and it would be fine if some actual plot stuff happened, but when you promise us a premise of these characters have to get this baby dragon to this faraway place called Zadia so that the Dragon Prince can rule kindly over the dragon people, when you promise us that premise, I kind of expect it to be delivered, and it took them a really long time to get to Zadia. Spoilers, but they finally get there at the end of this season. So 2 seasons of them finally getting to Zadia, but then they get there in the last minutes of this season. Now, there is a lot of good stuff that happens here, and I don't really want to spoil anything because, 1, I think you guys should watch this show, and 2, I feel like I've already reviewed almost everything that I felt like I had to say. We do have some characters here who are antagonists, but they are also sympathetic antagonists. And again, harkening back to Avatar: The Last Airbender, you had the character of Zuko in Avatar, who I'm pretty pretty sure from the very beginning they intended for him to eventually be part of the crew, but we had to work up to that. Here, we have two characters who they've got some good qualities, but then they've also got some really bad qualities, and I was really not sure where these characters were going to end up, and I guess they still have a journey to go through, but at this point, I think I'm very satisfied with the journey they are going on. I'm very interested to see where the series takes them from there, but both of them, they are very questionable in terms of their morality, but I still really like them, and it kind of sort of reminds me of Game of Thrones a little bit, where you have characters who do some really awful things, but then the series, both the TV show and the books, will work very hard to make you fall in love with these characters. For example, this is just a very minor spoiler for both the books and the show, but in the first episode, Jaime Lannister, he tries to murder a child to keep his affair with his sister hidden. Again, huge spoilers or minor spoilers, whatever happens in the first episode. So anyway, he does something really horrible, and then the series, well, the books, they don't really start showing us the good side of Jaime until like book 3, but the show, it goes out of its way to try and make us fall in love with this character who did something really horrible. And this show, there are times where I was thinking, okay, there's no way that this show is going to make me fall in love with this character. For example, Soren, he starts off being kind of friendly with Callum at the beginning of Season 1, and then throughout all of this season, up until the very end, I was thinking, okay, he's not going to be friends with these guys ever. At one point, Soren actually attacks an unarmed child with a sword. He doesn't actually do anything, but I was watching that thinking, okay, they're not going to be able to redeem him. And I don't want to go into any spoilers, but I was very happy with the direction that him and Claudia are going through in this season, and I'm really excited to see where they go in Season 3. Also, really excited to see where the character Ezran goes in Season 3. There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I am hoping that Season 3 will be paced a little faster than Season 2. Again, this kind of goes back to the Marvel Netflix shows where they have to have 13 episodes per season, and so even if they only have like 8 episodes of plot, they kind of have to fluff things up a little bit. That kind of feels like what they're doing here, where they had 9 episodes in Season 1, so they have to have 9 episodes in Season 2, even if they only have 7 episodes of plot. I really hope that they can kind of plot things up a little bit more with Season 3, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to Season 3. This series still has my attention, so I hope that you guys will check this series out and watch it. So that's about all that I have to say about The Dragon Prince Season 2. I think this is a step up in terms of animation from Season 1. I really like the direction almost all the characters are going with, so I am very anxious to see more. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and I will catch you later in the week with another video. Have a good one.